Hey everyone, welcome into Warp Factor 10, our show here on the Arena Productions about all things Star Trek. And of course, we're going to be talking about Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 5. So, Reflections, we've got that going. So, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be doing our review and our discussion of it. And just before we get started, of course, I'm your host and the founder of the Arena Productions Expat, along with my co-host, Burley. So Burley, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you, X-Man?
I'm doing good, and I just want to let everybody know here, Burley and I, we are not, we don't have butt bugs, affecting our body or anything like that. So just wanted to let all of you know that.
Yes.
And you're going to hear that reference, butt bugs and everything in this episode. So just want to let you all know. So. So before we get started, though, I just want to let all of you know real quick that we're going to be talking spoilers. So, of course, there's your Mariner spoiler alert. So we're going to be talking spoilers throughout this review and discussion of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3, Episode 5. So let's go ahead and jump into it, Burley. So, of course, what's interesting is we have three main characters in this story.
Yep.
And this is what I like about Star Trek Lower Decks is they don't just focus on one particular, crew member per episode. Yeah, for the week. Yeah, like in say Strange New Worlds and stuff like that. But in this they're focusing on three different characters. So obviously Rutherford here, he wakes up in a sweat and he has this dream about himself, his younger self, and there's like an explosion and all the, the fire and all that stuff on the panel and stuff like that. You got that. And then, of course, it transitions to Mariner and Boimler, and we're going to get to that as well. But what did you think of the first part here with Rutherford?
I like that. And then you find out it's a dream. And then he wakes up with Scream. And he of course, you got to have the comedy moment. Guy walking around just in a towel.
In a towel, yeah. The towel
yeah,
part,
and then just like...
Yeah.
No, I thought it was a good way to just open the episode.
Yeah. And then obviously he's in the bay here working on one of the vessels, and obviously he's really tired because he hasn't had any sleep, and so Tindy checks him out and sees that there's a lot of like leftover files in his cache stored in there, and so she decides she deletes it for him and tells him, why don't you go take a nap, and you're gonna feel better later. And so he's like, yeah, I think I'll do that, and boy oh boy, yeah, after that we're gonna talk about it in a minute or two, but yeah, he goes to take a nap, but then that nap turns into something else. Yeah, so we'll talk about that in a second, but let's get to
this is a lesson for you. This is why you don't nap at work.
Yeah, don't nap at work, that's for sure. Yeah, and then of course, Mariner and Boimler, they're getting ready to go down to the planet surface where they're at because they're supposed to they're supposed to work in a booth for recruiting for Starfleet on this mission. So basically, the ship is there to take care of the Starfleet. Some type of systems that need to be checked and everything, and the power systems, I think so. But they have some free time to check off other things on their to-do lists and quotas, and so yeah, Mariner and Boimler seem to always get recruited for the kind of down to the the nitty gritty and the grubby type of stuff. And in this case, it's the booth for the recruitment and all. And it's like Mariner, she's like really, really pissed off, and she doesn't want to do this. And I love the part where she's like, and she says, and I'm quoting this. This is from TVFanatic.com that I'm reading the quote from the episode, but it's so funny. Boimler says, like, well, somebody's got to do it, referring to doing the recruitment at the booth. And then Mariner's like, do they? Because last time I checked, no one's ever signed up for Starfleet at the recruitment booth. And then Tindy says, I did.
Yeah, I love that little, the little there.
And then Mariner's like, shh, you're not helping. That was so funny. Yeah. And then and then Boimler's like, I know it's not super exciting, but it's our assignment. What are you going to do? And then Mariner's like, complain the whole time and make it twice as miserable. And then Boimler's like, oh, that is your specialty. So yeah, I love that part. I love that part.
That was great.
Yeah, and there were some references to the original Star Trek series in there, because of course you could see they have like the cutout, like the cardboard cutout faces for Kirk and Spock, that they were going to set up in the booth and all. Yeah. So anyway, let's talk about let's go back to Rutherford. So Rutherford, there's like a malfunction in his like his eye,
his implant.
His implant, exactly. And then he just turns into his younger self, and his younger self, man, is like just completely different from who he is now. And it's like, and of course, then you see the reflection. So Reflections is of course the the title of this episode. But he sees his older self reflected in the outside part of the ship and all. But he's like coming up and he's like, yo man, what the beep is happening to me, man? And then he's like walking down the corridor, and then of course the pretty Trill girl that he's been dating like 4 different times walks up, and he's like, yeah, hey, beautiful, it's like, you look so hot. And he's like, and then that part where he's like, do those spots run all the way down?
And then you just like, the hand goes to your face.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, what? And
then I love that, and he does the other stupid lines of, she's like, but we've gone out like 4 times. Well, baby, if you were memorable, I'd remember. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah. She's like, he's talking about security and all. It's like, you don't even know what division or whatever. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, he's a completely different guy, man. And so he finds where Tindy is, because Rutherford, the older Rutherford, made a mistake of mentioning her, and so then he goes to her, and he tries to act like the older Rutherford for a second or two. That doesn't work, obviously. And then Rutherford, the older Rutherford, his reflection starts messing with the implant, and then that kind of messes him up as well. But then Tindy realizes that this isn't the real Rutherford, and so she calls for help. But yeah, I mean, and then let's go back to the before Mariner and Boimler leave. It's like Commander Ransom goes in there, and he overhears Mariner talking about, man, I don't want to do this, this job and everything. And he's like, if you don't do this, and if you don't stay in that booth, and you don't get information off of these on these pads, you're going to be transferred to Starbase 80. And she's like, no, don't send us to Starbase 80. So what is up with Starbase 80? It's like, apparently to them, it's the worst starbase in all of Starfleet, I guess. Yeah. So kind of like how the Cerritos is like the worst ship in Starfleet. Starbase 80 must be the worst starbase. Go ahead, Burley.
I was going to say, it is probably the worst starbase, and probably where all the crazy things that we get in the sign-up sheet, where the sign-up section, when they're doing that, all the horrible stories you hear, I'm guessing a lot of stuff like that happens.
Yeah. But anyway, let's get to the booth, man, because we have this girl named Petra, and of course she's in the booth next to them, and she's like a space archaeologist, and she's just messing with them. I mean, they're just trash talking each other. I just love it. Mariner, she's trying to, it's like, oh, it's like the undiscovered countries, so reference to Undiscovered Country, the film. And then, of course, she's talking about Strange New Worlds, shout out to Strange New Worlds. And then, you get to, like, the Collectors Guild comes up and makes fun of them. And then the others, what is it? The Truthers. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh no, here comes the Truthers. Yeah. and she's just making fun of, like, some people are coming up and asking questions, I remember one of them was like asking a question, and then Petra, And she used to be in Starfleet, Petra,
Yep.
It's funny. She's like saying, do you want to become a Borg? It's like, they get assimilated all the time. You'll have black tubes, black plastic tubes or whatever sticking out of your skin, and then the truthers come up and then make the situation, reference to Cisco. It's like, and then Mariner's like, oh, he's working hard in the Celestial Temple. And I love that. Just the back and forth between them. What did you think, man?
Oh, I love that, because you got, like, this is if you had a reference counter, this thing would just be going ding, 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 like every 30 to 40 seconds here. Because they're just popping out little references, like you said, Strange New Worlds, Undiscovered Country, Cisco, like, and I love the two tables going back and forth, and the archaeologist just stopping pretty much every recruitment.
Right. The conspiracy truthers. Is it true that these parasite bugs are like, manipulating these admirals, and taking them over, And then Boimler's like, oh, no way, that's not true. And then, of course, Mariner's like, I think it is. But anyway, yeah. But what's interesting about this situation here with the booth, it's like Mariner actually keeps it together. I mean, she just wants to go over there and beat the shit out of Petra. But it's like it's actually Boimler that loses it.
Because he gets that breaking point.
He gets that breaking point because then you have those, the scientists, that come up, and then they're talking about the uniforms, and then they start making fun of the uniforms, and then the one girl takes Boimler's pen, ensign pen, and throws it and steps on it, and that's the last straw. And he just starts freaking out, man. And he's like, I mean, I started getting these old Sam Kinison vibes. He's like saying, it's like, we don't want to protect you. We have to protect you from the Klingons, from the Romulans, and everything. We don't want to do that. We just want to research quasars. And it just going off and going crazy, and he's like, I failed the Kobayashi Maru 17 times. God damn it! Beep 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 beep. And it's like Ransom's coming in, and he's like gonna check, and he's thinking Mariner's gonna be the one that's just, messing up and doing the crazy
gone
shit.
Off, not doing what she's supposed to be. But no, she keeps it. She keeps it together, and she tries to talk Boimler back. I love it. That was the inverse, because if you thought anyone was going to be the one that would just blow up, reach that breaking point, they make it think like that whole they're setting it up looking like, oh, Mariner, she's just going to blow off. She's going to hit the person at the archaeologist guild booth. Nope, she keeps it together.
Yeah. And it's like when Boimler's going crazy and like destroying all the other booths, and they're all coming up to Mariner and they're like, is this how Starfleet really is? And I want to join,
Yeah.
And then she's like getting all the information on the pads, and when Ransom comes up, that was really good. That was really good, man. All right, so let's get back to Rutherford, of course, and his younger self. Now they, of course, are competing against each other, trying to build like a ship, to go on this like race in the neutral zone, kind of like a race and all. What did you think of that, Burley? Of course, Rutherford builds his like Delta flyer, so another reference to the to Voyager, with Tom Paris. What did you think of those parts there?
I like that. I love that they're just. I love just before they decide to do their race and all that, they're just talking, and he's showing him, here's what really happened. You used to be like this, an explosion happened, so they put the implant, wiped your mind. He's like, but only one of us could be in control. So pushes him down. He's like, I will go up, and just you see him start to ascend, and he's like, wait a minute, pulls him down, and they're trying to that both of them realize, okay, if we do this, we're just going to be wasting our time. Let's race.
Right. And so the younger Rutherford, he builds the Sampagita. That was pretty cool. It was all rig, pretty cool stuff. And then they start racing, and then, of course, the Romulan warbird, decloaks and starts firing at them. And, of course, the younger Rutherford's ship gets heavily damaged. But, Rutherford, he's got, because in his mind, he had created that Tindy and Mariner and Boimler were his crewmates on the Delta Flyer, and they helped him, and that was what helped him succeed and to win the race. And of course, but before the younger Rutherford obviously disappears, he puts his memories back into, the modern, Rutherford of now, basically about how the implant was planted into him. Still, he doesn't know who did it, and who approved of doing this. But basically it was like, Rutherford didn't have a choice. It was like after he was injured, they just they put these implants in his head, like maybe to monitor him or something. And it's like, well, we have to make it seem like he was consenting to this. What did you think of that, Burley?
I enjoyed that because it gives us a little mystery. Will we get this resolved later in this season?
Yeah. And speaking of the resolve, what could be resolved, of course, we go back, obviously, to the booth, and with Petra especially. This is, of course, the guild and all. But I mean, at the end of the episode, obviously, Mariner is doing the log because Boimler couldn't do it because he was put in the brig. It's usually Mariner that's being put in the brig, but Boimler was put in the brig because of what he did. But like Ransom's like, after you get out of the brig, let's get a drink, man. I want to hear all this stuff. It's like you really you stood up for Starfleet. But during that time when she was doing the log, guess who calls her? Of course, Petra calls her. And she's like saying that, hey, I was just doing that to to get you guys to react the way that you did, so that I could get into that museum and get the Grand Negus's like staff, So, and that's what she was trying to do the whole time. So her mission was completed. But the real thing was, she was basically saying to Mariner, if you don't like Starfleet, man, hey, there's a place for you here in the, for space archaeologists, you could join me. And then Mariner's like, delete or save contact. And she's hesitating. She's about to push delete, but then she hits save contact. So maybe in the future, this could become another situation for Mariner where she has to make a difficult decision. Does she stay in Starfleet, or does she leave and go off and do her own thing? And maybe join Petra with the space archaeologists. I don't know. What'd you think of that, Burley?
I like that because it gives us a chance that this character is not just a one-off. We'll get this character, Petra, again.
Yeah.
So it could be she joins her for a little bit, or something happens and they need Petra's help.
Yeah.
You never know. So it'll be interesting to see if and when this character does return. I would hope, if you're going to do an ending like that and be like, save contact, that this character will appear again, but who knows?
Right. Who knows? So, well, let us know in the comments what you thought of this episode. What did you think of the situation with Rutherford and his younger self? What did you think of the trash talking between Mariner and Petra at the booths? Let us know what you thought of that in the comments, and we'd really like to hear from you. And final thoughts, Burley. How did you like this episode? I loved it. I mean, it was one of my favorite episodes, especially the banter and the trash talk between them at the booths. Having to defend Starfleet, even though these characters, some of them just don't like what Starfleet really stands for in the way. I mean, because they're on the lower decks and they get all the grunt work and all, but they actually defended Starfleet. Even though Petra, being a former Starfleet officer, she she was getting under their skin in a sense. And I just loved it. I thought it was a great episode. What about you, man?
I really enjoyed it. I like that it wasn't just, we are going to be one character focus,
right?
That where we're getting both. We're getting Mariner, and then just Rutherford's different storylines, and then just having those go on. We're getting all that. Just
Yeah,
so
I would
many
have.
great moments and little callbacks. I
Yeah,
love that.
I would have loved to have seen a little bit of that younger Rutherford still stay in the present Rutherford. That would have been pretty funny, you
Yeah,
know.
you never know. We could get little
Yeah,
bits of him going back in future episodes. You never know.
never know, man. You never know. So, well, anyway, so this has been our review and discussion of Star Trek Lower Deck Season 3, Episode 5. So, reflections. So, yeah, reflections. So, yeah, it was a great episode. So if you really enjoyed this episode, please be sure to hit that like and the subscribe and the notification bell for when we, of course, drop a new episode of Warp Factor 10 and all of our content here on the Arena Productions. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to us, and thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you all for the support.
Yep. So I've been your host, Expat, along with my co-host, Burley. So we hope to catch you in the next episode of Warp Factor 10, our show about all things Star Trek here on the Arena Productions, and our next episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. So take care, everyone. Peace out.